The establishment of an international standard for English is a critical endeavor due to the widespread use of the language, especially among non native speakers. English is increasingly becoming the global lingua franca, particularly in fields such as business communication, academic exchanges, and online discourse. The growing importance of English in international contexts necessitates a standardized form to ensure effective communication across diverse linguistic backgrounds. For example, academic conferences with participants from all over the world require a shared language to present research, making it imperative to establish a common English standard. This drive for an international version of English has led to various attempts at defining what could be called international English. English is described as a supple, economic, and subtle instrument of global communication. It functions as the de facto and, in some cases, de jure language of international institutions, legal frameworks, and economic transactions. The use of English has thus become a central component of worldwide communication, not just functional necessity but as a legal norm in many international domains. The distinction between international English and world Englishes is significant. World Englishes refers to the diversity of English, varieties spoken globally, acknowledging cultural and regional differences. In contrast, international English focuses on creating a standardized version of the language that serves as a common ground for speakers from different linguistic backgrounds. This standardization is driven by pragmatic concerns aiming to facilitate global communication while accommodating a variety of professional and academic needs. Scholars have proposed various terms to define this evolving version of English, including English as lingua franca, ELF, Global English, Basic English, and Common English. Each term emphasizes different aspects of the language's use. For instance, Basic English, a concept often applied in academic institutions, aims to teach a simplified and standardized version of English that ensures intelligibility in global settings. This approach is commonly found in technical fields like engineering, where students are trying to use English that can be understood internationally. The focus here is on functional proficiency rather than cultural or regional identity. English as an international language is often seen as a register of English used primarily for professional and academic purposes, especially in written form. English as an international language can be treated as a specific variant of English, serving the needs of people in various occupations without necessarily aligning with any native variety of the language, such as Anglo-American English. This perspective aligns with the notion of English as a lingua franca, which is seen as a composite language free from the dominance of any specific national variety. The different terms used to describe international English reflect a recognition of its functional role in global communication. These terms signal a shift from viewing English as the language of native speakers to understanding it as a tool for international interaction. The use of English in international contexts requires a recognition of linguistic differences and the adaptation of English to suit global needs. The goal is to create a version of English that is flexible, accessible, and intelligible from diverse linguistic backgrounds. The concept of international English acknowledges a shift in how the language is used, particularly as it becomes a medium for cross-cultural communication. There are certain conditions that differ when English is used globally compared to when it is associated with native speakers or specific regions. The recognition here is twofold. It affirms that there is a commonality in the languages used worldwide, yet it also emphasizes the differences in notions, expectations, and attitudes that naturally emerge when English is employed as a tool for international communication. These differences are evident in the various ways English is spoken and understood across different nations and cultures, suggesting that while there is an overarching framework for international English, it will inevitably adapt to the specific needs and expectations of local contexts. One critical aspect of this is the increasing prevalence of non native speakers in the use and development of English. These speakers, who may not be native to the language, will become the primary agents shaping how English is maintained, modified, and understood in the future. This observation challenges the traditional view of English as a tool strictly for native speakers, shifting the perspective to one where non native users will play a more influential role in determining the ideologies and norms associated with the language. In this sense, international English can be seen as a collaborative process where native and non native speakers together define the language's use and its broader cultural significance. From a pedagogical perspective, the teaching of international English is another significant challenge. Educators are tasked with developing linguistic tools that facilitate effective communication across cultures and languages. This requires a nuanced understanding of how English functions as a lingua franca in diverse settings, whether on a global scale or within specific countries. The role of the non native plurilingual teacher becomes increasingly important in this context, as these educators bring a different perspective to how English is used and taught, focusing on fostering intercultural communication and mutual intelligibility. The concept of international English is not limited to global communication alone. International English can also function in an intranational context where it serves as a bridge between speakers of diverse languages within a country. For example, in nations with many indigenous languages, English may act as a common language, facilitating communication between people from different linguistic backgrounds. This highlights the adaptability of international English and its potential to serve as both a global and local tool for communication. However, as the use of English expands, there are inherent tensions. On one hand, there is pressure for uniformity in the language's use, driven by its increasing role as a global medium. On the other hand, this push for uniformity raises concerns about the erosion of linguistic diversity and the potential for language change. As English transitions from a foreign language to a second language in many regions, there is a growing recognition of the need for local varieties of English that reflect the unique cultural identities of their speakers. This tension between global standardization and local variation is central to the notion of international language. The complexities of international English also extend to its role in creating cultural identities. While English is used as a vehicle for international communication, it also serves as a means of expressing and constructing local and hybrid identities. This dual function of English, both as a tool for global connection and as a medium for cultural expression, reflects the dynamic and evolving nature of the language. As it continues to be shaped by its users, English is becoming not just a global language but also a canvas for cultural and linguistic innovation, especially in places where it interacts with local languages and customs.